The power conduit sparked again, and Daniel Reed muttered under his breath. He wiped sweat from his forehead and adjusted his position inside the narrow maintenance shaft. 3 hours into this repair job, and he still had 2 more connections to rebuild. The market district of Haven's rest station never slept, which meant the conduits never got proper rest either. Daniel pulled himself halfway out of the shaft to grab another tool from his kit. That's when he noticed the small figure standing nearby, watching him with enormous golden eyes. The child barely reached Daniel's waist. Soft gray fur covered his body, and his pointed ears twitched with curiosity. A Talaran kid, Daniel realized. The boy's tiny hands flexed, and Daniel caught sight of small but sharp claws extending and retracting from his fingertips. "Hello there," Daniel said, setting down his plasma torch carefully. "Are you lost?" The child tilted his head, studying Daniel with the intense focus only young children possessed. "You're a human," the boy stated, his voice high and clear. "That's right. My name is Daniel. What's yours?" "Pip." The child stepped closer, his nose wrinkling as he sniffed the air around Daniel. "You smell strange. Not like the other species," Daniel smiled. He'd heard that before. Humans apparently had a distinct scent that most aliens found unusual but not unpleasant. "I suppose I do. Is your family nearby?" But Pip wasn't listening. He circled around Daniel, his golden eyes scanning every inch of the human's body. "Where are your claws?" he asked suddenly. Daniel held up his hands, showing his fingers. "I don't have claws." Pip's eyes widened in shock. "No claws?" He looked down at his own hands, flexing his claws in and out again. "But how do you fight? How do you hunt? How do you climb?" "Well," Daniel said, crouching down to the child's level, "I use tools instead." "Tools?" Pip repeated the word like it was foreign. "These." Daniel held up a wrench. "And this." He showed the plasma torch, though he kept it pointed safely away. "Humans make things to help us do what we need to do." Pip reached out carefully to touch the wrench, running his small fingers along the metal surface. "But why don't you have claws? Everyone has something. The Dravens have their scales and venom. My people have claws and fast legs. The Veliks have hard shells. Even the Thorans have bark skin that protects them." He looked up at Daniel with genuine concern. "What do humans have?" Daniel sat down completely, letting his legs dangle into the maintenance shaft. This was a bigger question than the child probably realized. "You're right. We don't have claws or scales or anything like that. When humans first evolved on our world, we were actually pretty weak compared to other animals." "Weak." Pip seemed fascinated and horrified at the same time. "Very weak. We couldn't run as fast as the prey animals. We couldn't fight as well as the predators. We didn't have thick skin or sharp teeth worth mentioning." Daniel picked up a small bolt from his toolkit. "But we had hands that could grip things, and we had brains that could figure out how to use what we gripped." He held up the bolt. "See, instead of claws, we picked up rocks. Instead of fangs, we sharpened sticks. We learned to throw things with incredible accuracy. We learned to make fire to keep warm and cook food. Every time we faced a problem, we made something to solve it." Pip sat down across from Daniel, completely absorbed in the story. "So you made claws?" "We made better than claws," Daniel said. "We made tools that could cut through anything. Weapons that could strike from far away. Shields that could stop any attack. We didn't need evolution to give us these things over millions of years. We just built them ourselves." A shadow fell across them both, and Daniel looked up to see a female Talaran approaching quickly. She wore the colorful wrappings of a merchant, and her face showed relief mixed with frustration. "Pip, there you are." She rushed forward and pulled the child close. "I've told you not to wander off. The market is crowded and you could get lost or hurt." "Sorry, Mama," Pip said, though he kept looking at Daniel. "I was talking to the human. He was telling me about why they don't have claws." The female Talaran looked at Daniel with an apologetic expression. "I'm so sorry. He's at that age where he questions everything and everyone. I hope he wasn't bothering you." "Not at all," Daniel assured her. "He asked a very good question, actually. Where are your claws?" Pip's mother said with a tired smile. "He's been asking every species he meets what their natural defenses are. Last week he asked a Velix merchant why her shell had patterns on it." Daniel laughed. "Curiosity is a good trait. Humans value it highly." He stood up and brushed off his work clothes. "You know, if Pip is interested, I could show him something later. The observation deck has a holographic display system. I could show him some of Earth's history. how humans survived without claws or scales. Pip's eyes lit up. Really? Can I, Mama? Please? Kessa looked uncertain. I wouldn't want to take up your time. I'm almost done here, Daniel said, gesturing to the conduit. Another hour of work, then I'm off duty. If you're free around evening cycle, I'd be happy to meet you there. Consider it a cultural exchange. Pip bounced on his feet excitedly. Please, Mama? Kessa smiled and nodded. All right. We'll be there. Thank you, Daniel. I'm Kessa, by the way. Nice to meet you both. Daniel waved as Kessa led Pip back toward the market stalls. The boy kept looking back, his golden eyes full of wonder. As Daniel lowered himself back into the maintenance shaft to finish his work, he found himself smiling. He'd been on Haven's Rest for 2 years now, and most species kept their distance from humans. Curious but cautious. That was fine. Humans were still the newcomers to the galactic community after all. But sometimes it was nice to have someone genuinely interested in learning about humanity, and Pip had asked a question that went to the heart of what made humans unique. Where are your claws? The simple answer was nowhere. The real answer was everywhere. In every tool, every machine, every piece of technology humans had ever created, humans didn't need claws. They had something better. They had the ability to imagine, design, and build whatever they needed. That adaptability, that creativity, had taken them from prey animals on the African plains to a species that now walked among the stars. Daniel reconnected the final power coupling and felt satisfaction as the lights in the market corridor brightened. Another problem solved. Another tool properly applied. He climbed out of the shaft and gathered his equipment. Evening cycle was still a few hours away, but he wanted to prepare something special for Pip. The kid deserved more than just a simple answer. He deserved to understand the incredible journey that humanity had taken, from weak and vulnerable to one of the most innovative species in the galaxy. And it had all started with a simple realization, the same one Daniel had shared with Pip. Humans didn't need claws. They could build sharper ones. Stars filled the massive viewport like scattered diamonds on black cloth. Pip pressed his small hands against the transparent surface, his breath fogging the material slightly. Kessa stood behind him, one hand resting gently on his shoulder while Daniel worked with the holographic control panel nearby. The observation deck stretched wide and quiet around them. This late in the evening cycle, most station residents were either working or resting in their quarters. Only a few other beings occupied the space, including a Draven security officer who stood near the entrance, his reptilian features catching the soft blue light from the displays. Ready? Daniel asked, and Pip spun around, nodding eagerly. Daniel activated the holographic projector. The air above the central platform shimmered, and suddenly a blue-green sphere materialized, rotating slowly. Continents and oceans became visible as the image focused. This is Earth, Daniel explained. My homeworld. Your world has different colors, right, Pip? Yes, mine is mostly red with purple oceans, Pip said. Mama says it's because of the minerals in the water. Earth's oceans are blue because of how water absorbs light, Daniel said. He manipulated the controls and the holographic Earth zoomed in, focusing on a large landmass. This is Africa. This is where humans first appeared millions of years ago. The scene changed. Now instead of the planet view, they saw a vast grassland. Strange animals moved across the plains, some with long necks, others with massive bodies. And there, small figures walked upright on 2 legs. Those are early humans? Kessa asked, leaning forward with interest. Our ancestors, Daniel confirmed. See how they move? They're not running. They can't run fast enough to catch most prey or escape most predators. As if to demonstrate his point, the hologram shifted. A large cat-like creature with enormous fangs appeared, stalking through tall grass. The early humans scattered, running awkwardly on their 2 legs while the predator moved with deadly grace. Pip's claws extended instinctively. That animal is scary. That's a saber-toothed cat. They went extinct thousands of years ago, but back then, they hunted humans regularly. Daniel adjusted the display again. Humans were prey animals, Pip, not hunters. We were the ones being hunted. But you said humans survived, Pip pointed out. How? Daniel smiled and changed the scene once more. Now they saw a group of early humans huddled together. One of them held a rock, striking it against another rock. Sparks flew. Chips of stone fell away. Slowly the edge of the rock became sharp. We learned to shape stones, Daniel said. This is called napping. By hitting rocks together in the right way, we could make edges sharper than any claw. The hologram showed one of the humans attaching the sharpened stone to a long stick with plant fibers. A spear, simple but effective. That's a tool? Pip asked, the first of many. With spears, humans could hunt from a distance. We didn't need to get close to dangerous animals. We could throw these and hit targets from many body lengths away. The Draven security officer had moved closer, watching the display with obvious interest. His name badge read Rook. He crossed his arms, his scales glinting. This is how humans started? With pointed sticks? Everyone starts somewhere, Daniel replied. The difference is that humans never stopped improving. The holographic display began moving through time, showing the progression of human tools. Stone axes, bows and arrows. The discovery of fire, humans cooking meat, making it easier to digest and getting more energy from their food. Fire, Kessa said with wonder. Your species controlled fire that early. We had to, Daniel explained. We didn't have fur to keep us warm like many species. Fire gave us warmth, light, and protection. Predators feared it. We used that fear. The images continued. Bronze weapons replaced stone. Iron replaced bronze. Swords, shields, armor. Humans building walls around their settlements. Creating farming tools to grow food instead of just hunting for it. Pip watched it all with wide eyes. But other animals didn't do this? Some animals use simple tools, Daniel said. But humans took it further. We didn't just use what we found. We imagined what we needed and then figured out how to make it real. Rook stepped fully into their group now. I've heard stories about human history, but seeing it displayed like this... He paused. Your species was desperate. Absolutely desperate, Daniel agreed without shame. Every generation faced the same question, adapt or die. We couldn't grow claws, so we made knives. We couldn't grow armor, so we made shields. We couldn't run faster, so we learned to track prey over long distances, following them until they collapsed from exhaustion. That sounds cruel, Kessa said softly. Survival often is, Daniel replied, but it taught us something important. It taught us that our bodies didn't determine our fate, our minds did. He changed the display again. Now they saw more modern human tools. Firearms, vehicles, aircraft, computers, spacecraft. Each generation built on what the previous generation learned. We wrote things down so knowledge wouldn't be lost. We taught our children not just how to survive, but how to think, how to solve problems. Pip moved closer to the hologram, reaching out to touch the image of a spacecraft. His hand passed through the light projection. You built ships that go to the stars? We did. And we built much more than that. Daniel pulled up another image, this one showing a human in a powered exoskeleton. The suit multiplied the wearer's strength many times over. We built machines that make us stronger than any natural muscle. Another image appeared showing energy shields surrounding a human settlement. We built defenses that can stop almost any attack, then weapons sleek and efficient. And we built tools that can destroy from distances so great you couldn't see your target with natural eyes. Rook's expression had grown serious. Your species weaponized everything. Not everything, Daniel corrected. But when you spend millions of years as prey, you learn to take threats seriously. We built these things because we needed them. Because without them, we wouldn't have survived. Pip looked up at Daniel with a mixture of awe and concern. Are humans scary? Daniel knelt down to the child's level. Humans can be dangerous when threatened, yes. But here's the important part. Pip, we built all these tools, all these weapons, but the most important thing we built was the wisdom to know when not to use them. I don't understand, Pip admitted. Let me show you something else, Daniel said, standing up. He manipulated the controls and the holographic display changed to show various species working together, humans alongside Tallarans, Dravens, Veliks, and dozens of other aliens, building things together, sharing technology, trading goods and ideas. Humans spent a long time fighting each other on Earth, Daniel explained. We built terrible weapons and used them in terrible ways. But eventually, we learned that cooperation was better than conflict. We learned that sharing knowledge made everyone stronger. Kessa seemed relieved by this. So humans chose peace? We chose wisdom, Daniel said. We realized that having sharp claws, whether natural or built, wasn't enough. We needed to know when to extend them and when to keep them sheathed. Rook nodded slowly, his reptilian features thoughtful. Many species in the galaxy have natural weapons, but most never faced the challenges humans did. We were born with our advantages. We never had to earn them. And that's both a blessing and a lesson, Daniel said. Humans learned that necessity drives innovation. Every problem we faced, we solved by thinking, by creating, by adapting. We couldn't change our bodies fast enough through evolution, so we changed our environment instead. Pip stared at the holographic humans working alongside other species. So humans don't have claws, but they made metal claws. And energy claws. And smart claws that think, Daniel laughed. That's one way to put it, yes. But you're not scary, Pip decided firmly. You're nice. Most humans are nice, Daniel agreed. We learned that making friends is usually better than making enemies. The claws we built are for protection, not aggression. The hologram faded as Daniel powered down the display. The observation deck returned to its dim, peaceful state, with only the stars providing light through the viewport. Pip yawned suddenly, and Kessa smiled. I think someone is getting tired. Thank you for showing us this, Kessa said to Daniel. It's given us much to think about. There's more to the story, Daniel said. If Pip wants to learn more tomorrow, I'd be happy to continue. Pip nodded sleepily against his mother's side. I want to learn how to build things like humans do. Daniel felt warmth spread through his chest. That's exactly what humans hope for, Pip. We want to share what we've learned. Because the sharpest tool we ever built isn't a weapon. It's knowledge, and knowledge grows when it's shared. As Kessa led Pip toward the exit, the young Talaran looked back one more time. Daniel, do you think I could build sharp claws too, even without being human? I think you could build anything you set your mind to. Daniel replied honestly. That's the real secret. It's not about being human. It's about never stopping learning, never stopping trying, and never accepting that something is impossible. Pip smiled. His golden eyes bright despite his tiredness, and then he was gone. Following his mother into the corridor, Rook remained behind, standing beside Daniel as they both looked out at the stars. Your species frightened many of us when you first joined the galactic community, the Draven said quietly. Now I'm starting to understand why, and... The smell of lubricant and metal filled the air as the heavy security door slid open. Pip held tight to his mother's hand, his ears swiveling forward with curiosity. Rook walked beside them, his scaled hand resting casually on his weapon holster out of habit rather than threat. Daniel waited inside what the station residents called the Human Quarter Security Office. It looked different from other security stations Pip had seen. Everything seemed designed for function over appearance. Gray walls held various equipment racks, and a transparent partition separated the main office from what appeared to be a training area beyond. Right on time, Daniel greeted them. He gestured to a woman standing beside him. She wore a dark uniform with patches Pip didn't recognize, and her posture reminded him of the way station guards stood, alert and ready. This is Rachel Adams, Daniel introduced. She's the security chief for the human district on Haven's Rest. Rachel smiled, though Pip noticed her eyes constantly scanned the room, watching everything. Pleasure to meet you all. Daniel mentioned that young Pip here is interested in learning about human capabilities. He hasn't stopped talking about it since yesterday, Kessa admitted with an amused smile. He wants to know everything about humans and their tools. Well, you came to the right place, Rachel said. She pressed a control panel, and the transparent partition slid open. Come on, I'll show you what modern human claws look like. They entered the training area. One wall held various weapons secured in locked cases. Another displayed different types of protective gear. A shooting range stretched along the far end with targets set up at various distances. Pip's eyes went wide. That's a lot of tools. These aren't tools for building things, Rook observed, his professional interest clearly engaged. These are weapons. You're right, Rachel acknowledged. Yesterday, Daniel showed you how humans started with simple tools for survival. Today, I'm going to show you where that evolution led us. She walked to one of the display cases and entered a code. The lock disengaged with a soft click. Rachel carefully removed what looked like a simple black rectangle, no bigger than her hand. This is a standard human sidearm, Rachel explained, holding it carefully. It fires concentrated energy bursts. Effective range of about 200 meters with accuracy. Can be set to stun or to lethal force. Kessa's ears flattened slightly against her head, a sign of concern among Talarans. That's much farther than any natural weapon. Exactly the point, Rachel said. She set the weapon down on a nearby table and picked up what looked like a vest made of dark fabric. This is personal armor. It's lightweight, flexible, and can stop most projectile weapons and many energy weapons. A human wearing this has better protection than a Draven's natural scales. Rook touched his own chest, where his armored scales overlapped naturally. Our scales evolved over millions of years. And humans designed this in a laboratory in less than a decade, Rachel said without boasting, just stating fact. That's what I want you to understand. Other species were born with their advantages. Humans had to build ours, and because we built them, we can improve them constantly. She moved to another case and pulled out something that looked like a metal frame. This is a powered exoskeleton, scaled down for training purposes. A human wearing the full version can lift several times their body weight, run faster than most species, and operate in environments that would kill unprotected humans. Pip stepped closer, fascinated.
Can I touch it?
Carefully, Rachel said, lowering the frame so Pip could reach it. The young Talaran ran his fingers along the metal joints, feeling how they moved smoothly despite the obvious strength of the materials. It's cold, Pip noted. Metal usually is, Rachel agreed. But when someone wears it, their body heat warms it up. And the power system generates warmth too. These suits can operate in temperatures that would freeze most species solid, or heat that would cook them. Daniel spoke up from where he'd been watching. Remember what I said yesterday about humans being weak compared to other animals on Earth? We couldn't survive in the hot deserts or frozen mountains naturally, so we made clothes and eventually we made suits like this that let us go anywhere. Even space, Pip said, remembering the images from yesterday's lesson. Especially space, Rachel confirmed. She returned the exoskeleton to its case and walked toward the shooting range. But let me show you something more important than any single weapon or tool. She picked up the sidearm again and walked to the firing line. With practiced movements, she checked the weapon, adjusted a setting, and aimed at a target 50 meters away. She fired 5 times in rapid succession. Each shot hit the target dead center, the energy burst leaving glowing marks. That's impressive accuracy, Rook admitted. Any trained human can do that, Rachel said. She safed the weapon and set it down. But watch this. She walked to the target and examined it closely, then turned back to them. See how all 5 shots hit within a hand's width of each other? That's not just about the weapon. That's about training, practice, discipline. The weapon is just a tool. The real weapon is the person using it. She returned to the group and picked up a small data pad, showing them various images. These are called tactics and strategies. When humans face an enemy, we don't just rely on having better weapons. We study our opponent. We learn their weaknesses. We plan our approach. Like hunting, Kessa said thoughtfully. Yes, but more complex, Rachel explained. Humans learned that direct confrontation isn't always the best approach. Sometimes the smartest move is to avoid a fight entirely. Sometimes it's to make your enemy think you're weak when you're strong or strong when you're weak. Pip frowned in concentration. That sounds like lying. It's called deception, and it's a valid survival strategy, Rachel said gently. Many animals use it. Some insects look like leaves. Some fish can change colors. Humans learn to deceive with behavior and planning, not just appearance. Rook's tail swished behind him, a sign of agitation among dravens. This is what concerns some species about humans. You don't fight honorably. We fight to survive, Rachel corrected, her voice firm but not angry. Honor is a luxury of the strong. Humans spent most of their history being not strong enough, not fast enough, not armored enough. We learned to use our intelligence because it was all we had. She pulled up another image on the data pad, showing what looked like a battlefield. Let me tell you about something that happened 5 years ago. It's called the Krell incident. Even Kessa seemed to recognize that name. Her ears perked up with interest. The Krell are a warrior species, Rachel continued. They come from a death world where only the strongest survive. They have natural weapons that can tear through steel plating. They heal from wounds that would kill most species. They're bigger, stronger, and more aggressive than humans. What happened? Pip asked, hanging on every word. They attacked a human colony world called New Portland. 3,000 Krell warriors landed expecting an easy conquest. They thought humans would be soft targets. Rachel's expression grew serious. The colony had only 500 human defenders. We were outnumbered 6-1 by a species naturally superior in combat. But humans won, Pip guessed. The Krell retreated after 3 weeks, Rachel confirmed. They lost over 2,000 warriors. Humans lost less than 100, Rook leaned forward. How? We didn't fight the way the Krell expected, Rachel explained. They wanted glorious combat, strength against strength. Instead, humans used guerrilla tactics. We attacked at night when the Krell's vision was poor. We set traps. We studied their biology and created sonic weapons that exploited their sensitive hearing. She showed them tactical maps, showing how human forces had moved and engaged. We made them angry, made them chase us into prepared positions. We used their aggression against them. Every time they thought they had us cornered, we were actually exactly where we wanted to be. That's clever, Pip said with admiration. That's survival, Rachel replied. The Krell were better warriors in single combat. But humans are better strategists. We think several steps ahead. We plan for contingencies. We adapt when plans fail, Kessa asked quietly. What happened after the Krell retreated? That's the important part, Daniel interjected. Humans could have pursued them, could have attacked their homeworld in revenge. We had the capability. But we didn't, Rachel finished. Instead, we sent diplomats. We made it clear that we could reach their homeworld if we wanted to, but we chose not to. We offered trade agreements instead of continued war. Why? Rook asked, genuinely confused. You had proven your strength, Rachel smiled. Because the sharpest weapon humanity ever built isn't a gun or a bomb. It's our ability to choose when not to use violence. The Krell respected strength, so we showed them our strength. But we also showed them our restraint. She looked down at Pip. You asked Daniel where human claws are. We showed you today that humans built claws sharper and more deadly than any natural weapon in the galaxy. But the real answer to your question is this. Humans built the wisdom to know that having claws isn't the same as needing to use them. Pip thought about this for a long moment. So humans are strong but choose to be nice? Humans are strong enough to be nice, Rachel corrected. There's a saying on Earth, speak softly and carry a big stick. It means that you don't need to threaten people if they know you're capable of defending yourself. She began returning the equipment to the cases. Every weapon and tool I showed you today exists because humans needed them to survive. We built them, we improved them, and we continue to develop new ones. But we also built laws about when to use them. We built diplomacy to avoid using them. We built an entire society around the idea that strength should protect, not conquer. Not all humans follow these rules, Rook pointed out. I've seen the security reports. Some humans on this station cause trouble. You're absolutely right, Rachel agreed. Humans aren't perfect. Some of us make bad choices. But as a species, we learned that cooperation works better than conflict. We learned that making friends is more valuable than making enemies. Pip walked back to the case holding the exoskeleton and looked at it thoughtfully. If I worked really hard, could I learn to build things like humans do? Rachel knelt down beside him. Pip, the best thing about tools and technology is that anyone can learn to use them. They're not limited by biology. A Talaran can use a human weapon just as well as a human can once they're trained. That's the whole point. Humans don't want to keep their claws to themselves, Daniel added. We want to share them. We want to teach others, because the galaxy is safer when everyone has the tools they need to protect themselves. As they prepared to leave the security office, Pip looked back at all the equipment one more time. Yesterday, he'd learned that humans had built tools to replace their missing claws. Today, he'd learned that those tools had become incredibly powerful. But he'd also learned something else, something that made him feel safe rather than scared. Humans had built sharp claws, yes, but they'd also built the wisdom to know when to keep those claws sheathed. That, Pip was beginning to understand, was what made them truly special. Rain drummed against the viewport in Rachel's private office. Artificial weather programmed into this section of the station to help residents from Waterworld planets feel at home. The sound created a peaceful rhythm that contrasted with the serious topic they were discussing. Pip sat in a chair modified for smaller beings, his legs swinging above the floor. Kessa stood behind him, one hand on his shoulder. Rook leaned against the wall near the door, his arms crossed but his posture relaxed. Daniel occupied another chair, his hands wrapped around a container of hot coffee. Rachel sat behind her desk, but she'd pulled up a holographic display that floated in the air between them all, visible from every angle. You showed us weapons yesterday, Kessa said carefully, but you mentioned there was more to the story of the Krell incident. Pip couldn't stop talking about it last night. He wants to understand how humans won that battle. Rachel glanced at Pip. Are you sure you want to hear this? Some of it isn't pleasant. Pip nodded seriously. I want to learn. All right then. Rachel manipulated the holographic controls and an image appeared showing a planet with green landmasses and blue oceans. This is New Portland. It was settled 30 years ago by about 5,000 humans who wanted to start a farming community. Peaceful people, mostly families. The image zoomed in, showing neat fields and small settlements. Pip could see buildings that looked comfortable and welcoming. The Krell didn't know much about humans when they arrived. Rachel continued. They'd heard we were a new species in the galactic community. They saw our colony and thought it would be easy to conquer. The display shifted, showing the Krell. They were massive beings, easily twice the size of a human, with thick armored hides and claws that looked like curved blades. Their faces were angular and fierce with rows of sharp teeth. Pip's claws extended involuntarily. They're scary. They're apex predators from a deathworld, Rook added. Their planet has twice Earth's gravity and is filled with dangerous creatures. Only the strongest Krell survive to adulthood. Exactly, Rachel said. The Krell live for combat. Their entire culture revolves around strength and honor in battle. When they landed on New Portland, they expected the humans to either fight them directly or surrender immediately. But humans didn't do either, Pip asked. Humans didn't either, Rachel confirmed. She changed the display to show a recording. The quality was rough, clearly from a helmet camera or surveillance system. It showed Krell warriors moving through what looked like a forest. The colonists had only 500 people with military training, Rachel explained. Everyone else was farmers, teachers, engineers. They were outnumbered and outmatched in physical strength. So what did they do? Kessa asked, leaning forward despite herself. They thought, Daniel said simply. They observed and planned. The recording continued. The Krell warriors moved confidently, their weapons ready, expecting resistance. Suddenly, the ground beneath 3 of them collapsed. They fell into a concealed pit, roaring in surprise and anger. Traps, Rook said with understanding. Basic but effective, Rachel agreed. Humans studied how the Krell moved. They were aggressive, pushing forward without checking for dangers because nothing on their homeworld could seriously threaten them. Another recording showed a different scene. Krell warriors burst into a human settlement, only to find it empty. As they searched the buildings, explosions rocked the structures. Not powerful enough to kill the armored Krell, but enough to disorient and injure them. Humans evacuated civilians before the Krell arrived at each location, Rachel explained. Then they rigged the buildings. The Krell wanted glorious combat, but humans refused to give it to them. That seems cowardly, Kessa said, though her tone was uncertain rather than judgmental. Is it cowardly to refuse to fight on your enemy's terms? Daniel asked. The Krell were better at direct combat. Much better. Fighting them that way would have been suicide. Instead, humans fought smart. Rachel continued. The display showed a map of the colony, with markers indicating Krell positions and human movements. They attacked at night, using thermal imaging that the Krell didn't have. They hit supply lines. They destroyed the Krell's communication equipment. Within the first week, the Krell were frustrated and angry, Rachel said. They'd come expecting an honorable battle, but instead they were fighting an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't catch, and couldn't predict. A new recording appeared, this one showing a Krell commander speaking. The translation subtitles appeared below. These humans are cowards. They hide like prey. They refuse honorable combat. The Krell didn't understand, Daniel said quietly. Honor means different things to different species. To the Krell, honor meant facing your enemy directly. To humans, honor meant protecting your people by any means necessary. Rachel brought up another display, this one showing biological data. By the second week, humans had captured enough Krell DNA samples to study their biology. They discovered the Krell had extremely sensitive hearing, much better than humans. It was an advantage in most situations. But humans made it a weakness, Pip said, starting to understand. We built sonic weapons, Rachel confirmed. Devices that emitted sounds at frequencies painful to Krell hearing, but barely noticeable to humans. We deployed them around key areas. The Krell found themselves in constant discomfort, unable to rest or recover. That's cruel, Kessa said softly. War is cruel, Rachel replied without apology. The Krell invaded a peaceful colony. They killed civilians in the early days before humans could evacuate them all. Humans didn't start this fight, but they were determined to end it. The display shifted again, showing what looked like a major battle. Hundreds of Krell warriors charged across an open field toward a human defensive position. This was the third week, Rachel narrated. The Krell commander decided on one massive assault. He gathered all his remaining forces and attacked the main human stronghold. The recording showed the Krell running forward with terrifying speed and power. Then the field erupted. Hidden charges detonated in precise patterns. The ground itself became a weapon. Krell warriors fell, injured and disoriented. From concealed positions, humans opened fire with their energy weapons. They didn't aim to kill initially. They aimed to injure. Wounded Krell slowed down their companions who tried to help them. Humans used psychology against them, Daniel explained. Krell culture values their warriors. They won't abandon wounded companions. By injuring but not killing, humans forced the Krell to divide their attention between fighting and rescue. That's brilliant, Rook said with reluctant admiration. Ruthless but brilliant. The assault failed, Rachel said as the recording showed Krell forces retreating in disorder. They'd lost nearly half their remaining warriors and they hadn't even reached the human position. After that, the Krell commander called for a retreat to their ships. Rachel continued. But humans weren't done. As the Krell withdrew, humans harassed them every step of the way. Long-range fire, drones dropping small explosives, constant pressure that didn't let them rest or regroup. Pip watched the displays with wide eyes. Humans were really angry. Humans were determined, Daniel corrected gently. There's a difference. Anger makes you sloppy, determination keeps you focused. The Krell finally made it back to their landing zone, Rachel said, showing the final recordings. They boarded their ships and left. Out of 3,000 warriors who landed, fewer than 800 left alive. And most of those were injured. What happened next? Kessa asked. Rachel's expression changed, becoming softer. This is the important part. The part that really shows what humans are capable of. She pulled up a new image showing a diplomatic meeting. Humans in formal clothes sat across from Krell commanders. The Krell looked wary and angry, but they were listening. Humans sent diplomats, Rachel explained. We told the Krell that we could find their homeworld. We had ships that could reach it. We had weapons that could attack from orbit. But you didn't, Pip said. We didn't, Rachel confirmed. Instead, we offered a treaty. We explained that humans had no interest in conquering Krell territory. We proposed trade agreements. We even offered medical assistance for their wounded warriors. The Krell were confused, Daniel added. In their culture, the strong conquer the weak. The victor takes everything. They couldn't understand why humans would offer peace instead of pressing their advantage. What did you tell them? Rook asked. We told them the truth, Rachel said. We explained that humans had spent thousands of years fighting each other on Earth. We'd built terrible weapons and killed millions of our own species in wars that achieved nothing. We learned eventually that winning battles isn't the same as winning peace. The holographic display showed the treaty being signed. Human and Krell representatives standing together, awkward but committed. The Krell call it the victory of the clever, Rachel said. In their language, it's actually a term of respect. They acknowledge that humans beat them not through strength but through intelligence and strategy. And now? Kessa asked. Now humans and Krell trade regularly, Daniel said. Some Krell have even come to study at human military academies. They want to learn our tactical thinking, and humans learn from them too. Their discipline and combat techniques are impressive. Pip had been quiet for a while, thinking hard. Finally he spoke. So humans won the fight by thinking, not by being strong. We won by using our strengths instead of trying to match their strengths, Rachel clarified. The Krell were better warriors in single combat. But humans are better planners, better at working together, better at adapting to situations. Every species has advantages, Daniel added. Humans just learned earlier than most that physical advantages aren't the only kind that matter. Rachel shut down the holographic display. The Krell incident taught the galaxy something important about humans. We're not the strongest species. We're not the fastest or the most heavily armored, but we're possibly the best at solving problems under pressure. And choosing peace after proving you can win a war, Rook added. That impressed many species, including my own. Pip looked thoughtful. Is that why other species work with humans now? Because you're smart and you choose to be nice instead of mean? That's part of it, Rachel said. But there's more to learn about humans, Pip. You've seen our weapons and our tactics. Tomorrow, if you want, I can show you what I think is humanity's greatest strength. What's that? Pip asked eagerly. Rachel smiled. Our ability to make friends, even with former enemies. Our ability to see potential in everyone we meet. Our ability to build communities that include everyone, not just our own species. I want to see that, Pip declared. As they left Rachel's office, the artificial rain still falling outside, Pip held his mother's hand and thought about everything he'd learned. Humans had built sharp claws, sharper than anything nature had created. But more importantly, they'd built the wisdom to know that the sharpest weapon wasn't always the best tool for solving problems. Sometimes, Pip was learning. The best tool was an open hand extended in friendship, not a closed fist ready to fight. Laughter echoed through the multi-species school, high-pitched and joyful. Pip paused at the entrance, his ears swiveling to catch all the different sounds. Children of at least a dozen species played in the common area, their voices blending into a symphony of youth and energy. Daniel stood beside him, a gentle smile on his face. I thought you might like to see where the real future is being built. Kessa adjusted the carry bag on her shoulder. She'd brought some of Pip's favorite snacks, thinking he might want to stay and play after the tour. Rook had other duties today, but he'd made Pip promise to tell him everything he learned. A figure approached them, walking on 4 legs with a smooth, gliding motion. The being's body resembled an insect's, with a hard exoskeleton that gleamed with iridescent colors, multiple eyes focused on them with obvious intelligence. Daniel, welcome, the being said, their voice produced by vibrating plates on their thorax. And you must be Pip. Daniel told me you've been learning about humans. This is Teacher Lorne, Daniel introduced. They run the primary education program here on Haven's Rest. I'm Velix, Teacher Lorne explained to Pip. My species values knowledge above all else. We've been recording galactic history for thousands of years. Pip tried not to stare at Teacher Lorne's many eyes, but it was difficult. Do you know a lot about humans? More than I did 5 years ago, Teacher Lorne admitted with what might have been amusement. Humans are still relatively new to the galactic community, but they've made quite an impression in a short time. They walked into the school proper. The walls displayed artwork from various species, showing different perspectives and styles. One wall featured what looked like a collaborative mural, where human children had painted alongside alien children, creating something that blended multiple artistic traditions. How many human children study here? Kessa asked. About 40, mixed with 200 children from other species, Teacher Lorne replied. We believe mixed education produces better citizens. Children who learn alongside those different from themselves grow up understanding cooperation. They entered a large classroom where a lesson was in progress. A young human girl stood at the front, explaining something to a mixed group of children. She used hand gestures and drew pictures on a holographic board as she spoke. That's Amy, Daniel whispered. She's teaching the other kids a game from Earth called chess. Pip watched as Amy demonstrated how different pieces moved on a board. The alien children listened intently, asking questions that Amy answered with patience and enthusiasm. Human children are natural teachers, Teacher Lorne observed. They have an interesting quality. They assume everyone can learn anything regardless of species. They don't see differences as barriers. Is that unusual? Kessa asked. Very, Teacher Lorne confirmed. Most species tend to believe their own way of thinking is superior. Humans seem to believe every way of thinking has value. They moved to another area where younger children played together. Pip saw a human boy carefully helping a Thoran child, a plant-based species, build a structure with blocks. The Thorans manipulating vines weren't as precise as fingers, but the human boy showed them how to grip the blocks at a different angle. Watch this, Daniel said quietly. The structure complete. Both children celebrated together. The human boy didn't act like he'd done something special by helping. He acted like they'd built it together, which Pip realized they had. Humans collaborate naturally, Teacher Lorne explained. They have a saying, many hands make light work. They apply this principle to everything. They don't hoard knowledge or skills. They share freely. They walked through a garden area where older children worked on a biological project. Humans, Talorans, Velix, and several other species worked side by side, planting and tending various plants from different worlds. A human teenager named Peter noticed them watching. He waved and walked over, his hands covered in soil. Hi, Daniel. Are you giving another tour? This is Pip, Daniel introduced. He's learning about humans. Peter knelt down to Pip's level, seemingly unconcerned about getting dirt on his clothes. Cool. What have you learned so far? That humans build tools instead of having claws, Pip said. and that humans are really good at planning and fighting. That's true, Peter agreed. But we're also really good at gardening. He gestured to the garden. See those purple plants? Those are from the Thorin homeworld. The green ones with silver leaves are from Earth. The red ones are from your homeworld, actually. My planet? Pip said with surprise. Yeah, they're called sunset flowers. We're testing if they can grow in modified soil with nutrients from other worlds. If we succeed, we can create gardens that support plants from multiple planets in the same space. Why? Pip asked. Peter seemed to think this was a great question. Because shared spaces are important. If different species can see their home plants growing together, it reminds everyone that we can grow together too. It's symbolic, but symbols matter. After Peter returned to his work, Teacher Lorne led them to their office. The space was filled with data storage devices and displays showing various educational programs. Let me show you something, Teacher Lorne said, pulling up statistics on a screen. These are academic performance records for the last 3 years. Notice anything interesting? Kessa studied the numbers. Children in mixed species classes perform better than those in single species classes. Significantly better, Teacher Lorne confirmed. Learning alongside those who think differently challenges children to explain their reasoning more clearly, consider alternative perspectives, and develop creative solutions. And human children? Daniel prompted. Human children show the highest improvement rates, Teacher Lorne said. Not because they're smarter than other species, but because they seem to thrive on diversity. They get excited when they learn something works differently for another species. I've noticed Pip is similar, Kessa said, smiling at her son. He asks everyone questions about how they do things. Curiosity is a valuable trait, Teacher Lorne said. Humans have it in abundance. They also have something else. The Velix brought up another display, showing various technological innovations. Notice the names? Pip couldn't read all the alien scripts, but he recognized some. Some of these have human names and other names together. Exactly, Teacher Lorne said. 40% of new technologies registered in the last 5 years were collaborative efforts between humans and other species. Humans don't just build tools alone. They build them with others, Daniel added. Remember how I showed you human weapons? Most of those were improved by working with other species. Our energy shields are more efficient, because we worked with the Navri who understand energy fields better than we do. Our medical technology advanced rapidly because we collaborated with species who have different biological systems. Humans make everything better by including everyone, Pip said, starting to understand. That's one way to put it, Teacher Lorne agreed. Humans have a concept called synergy. It means the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Humans believe that working together produces better results than working alone. They returned to the common area, where children were now sharing a meal together. Pip watched as kids from different species tried each other's foods, made faces at the strange taste, laughed, and tried again. My species evolved to keep detailed records, Teacher Lorne said thoughtfully. The Dravens evolved to be excellent warriors. The Talorans evolved to be skilled hunters. Each species developed based on what their environment required. And humans evolved to be adaptable, Daniel finished. Because Earth's environment changed constantly, humans who could adapt survived. Those who couldn't didn't. But you did something more, Teacher Lorne continued. You didn't just adapt to your environment. You adapted to each other. Human tribes that cooperated survived. Those that fought alone didn't. So cooperation became built into your nature. Kessa watched a human child share their food with a Velix child who'd forgotten their lunch. I see what you mean. It's instinctive for them. It is now, Daniel agreed. It wasn't always. Humans fought each other for most of our history, but we learned eventually that we achieved more together than apart. A bell rang, signaling the end of the school day. Children began gathering their belongings, saying goodbye to friends with hugs, waves, and various species-appropriate gestures. Pip watched Amy, the human girl who'd been teaching chess, exchange contact information with a Draven child so they could continue their game online later. Teacher Lorne, Pip said suddenly. If humans are so good at working with others, why do some species fear them? The Velix's eyes seemed to focus more intently. An excellent question. Humans have proven they can be formidable when threatened. Their weapons are impressive, their tactics are clever, and their determination is frightening to those who might become enemies. But, Daniel interjected, humans prefer friends to enemies. We'd rather build bridges than walls. We'd rather teach than conquer. The galaxy is learning this, Teacher Lorne said. Slowly, species are understanding that humans are more interested in cooperation than domination. Schools like this one help. When children of different species grow up learning together, playing together, building things together, they don't see each other as aliens. They see friends. Pip thought about his own friends back home. They were all Tallarans like him. He'd never really known anyone from another species before coming to Haven's Rest. But in just a few days, he'd learned so much from Daniel, Rachel, Rook, and now Teacher Lorne and the children here. I want to come back tomorrow, Pip announced. Can I play with the other kids? Kessa looked at Teacher Lorne, who bobbed their head in an approximation of a nod. Any child who wants to learn and play with others is welcome here. As they prepared to leave, Daniel stopped by the collaborative mural. See this, Pip? This is what I think humans do best. We see a blank wall and we invite everyone to help fill it with color. Pip looked at the mural. Different styles, different colors, different techniques all blended together to create something beautiful and unique. No single species could have created it alone. Humans built sharp claws, Pip said slowly, working through his thoughts, but they also built open hands. Perfect way to put it, Daniel said warmly. The claws are for protection. The open hands are for friendship. And humans learned that you need both to truly thrive in the galaxy. That night, as Kessa tucked Pip into bed at their quarters, he looked up at her with serious eyes. Mama, do you think I could learn to be like humans? To build things and make friends with everyone? Kessa smoothed his fur gently. I think you're already learning, little one. And that's exactly what the galaxy needs. More people willing to learn, to share, and to build bridges instead of walls. Pip smiled and closed his eyes, dreaming of a future where he could create amazing things not alone, but together with friends from across the stars. Darkness filled the observation deck except for the light of distant stars. Pip pressed his face against the viewport, searching the black canvas of space until he found what he was looking for. Earth's moon, pale and round, hung in the distance like a pearl. Can you see your homeworld from here? Pip asked Daniel, who stood beside him. Not Earth itself, not from this angle, Daniel replied. But that's Luna, our moon. Humans have been looking at it for as long as we've existed. We told stories about it, worshipped it, studied it, and 56 years ago we finally walked on it. Pip's ears perked up. You walked on your moon? Humans did, Daniel confirmed. It was incredibly difficult and dangerous. Many people said it was impossible. But humans decided to do it anyway. Why? Pip asked. It seemed like such a strange goal. Daniel smiled in the darkness. Because it was hard. There's an old human saying, we choose to do these things not because they are easy but because they are hard. Challenges drive humans forward. Kessa arrived, slightly out of breath. Sorry I'm late. The Merchant Guild meeting ran longer than expected. She joined them at the viewport. What are we looking at? Daniel is telling me about the moon, Pip explained. It's beautiful, Kessa said softly. Different from our moons. Ours are much smaller and red. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the stars. The station's night cycle made everything feel peaceful and contemplative. Footsteps announced Rachel's arrival. She carried a data pad and wore casual clothes instead of her uniform. Evening, everyone. Daniel said you'd be here. Pip wanted one more lesson, Daniel explained, to finish what we started. Rachel nodded and activated her data pad, projecting a small hologram into the space between them. It showed Haven's Rest Station from the outside, a massive structure of metal and light spinning slowly in space. This station was built 70 years ago, Rachel began. Back then, humans hadn't even made first contact yet. It was created by a coalition of 12 species who wanted a neutral place to trade and meet. Now humans live here too, Pip observed. Now humans live everywhere, Rachel said with a slight smile. In 50 years, humans have established colonies on 43 worlds and joined nearly every major galactic organization. Some species did that faster. Teacher Lorne's voice came from behind them. The Veliks had arrived quietly, their multiple legs making almost no sound, but none did it with such enthusiasm for meeting everyone they encountered. We were curious, Daniel said simply. When humans first met alien species, we were amazed. Every species had something to teach us. Every culture had ideas we'd never considered. Rook emerged from the shadows near the entrance. I hope I'm not late. I wanted to hear this final lesson. Perfect timing, Rachel said. We were just about to discuss the future. She changed the holographic display to show a star map. Thousands of points of light represented explored systems. This is known space. Hundreds of species, thousands of worlds, countless individuals all trying to survive and thrive. The galaxy is dangerous, Teacher Lorne added. There are species that conquer others. Pirates who prey on the weak. Natural disasters and cosmic events that threaten entire worlds. But there's also cooperation, Kessa said. Trade, diplomacy, shared knowledge. Exactly, Daniel agreed. And humans believe the cooperation is more important than the dangers. Pip had been thinking about something all day. Daniel, will humans ever stop building? Stop making new tools and weapons and things? Daniel knelt down to Pip's level, his expression serious but kind. That's a profound question, Pip. Honestly, I don't think humans will ever stop building. It's part of who we are, but why? If you're already strong and safe, why keep building? Because there's always a new problem to solve, Daniel explained. Always a new challenge to overcome. Always someone who needs help. Humans don't build just for themselves anymore. We build for everyone. Rachel brought up a new image on her hologram. It showed a human-led coalition of ships. 2 days ago, this fleet made first contact with a new species in the Outer Rim. The Kess. They're a peaceful people who have been isolated for thousands of years. Did humans fight them? Pip asked, though he thought he knew the answer. We talked to them, Rachel said. We shared food, stories, and knowledge. We offered friendship and trade. And the Kess accepted. This is what humans do now, Teacher Lorne said. You've built your sharp claws, proven you can defend yourselves, and now you focus on extending hands and friendship instead. Rook spoke up from his position by the door. When humans first arrived in the galaxy, many species, including mine, watched them carefully. We wondered if they would be conquerors or allies. We've seen species go both ways. What made you decide humans were allies? Kessa asked. Time and observation, Rook replied. Humans had opportunities to dominate weaker species. They chose instead to trade fairly. They had chances to keep advanced technology to themselves. They chose to share it. They won wars but chose peace after victory. Humans are still dangerous, Teacher Lorne added. Make no mistake. If threatened, they will defend themselves with devastating effectiveness. But they prefer not to be threatened. They prefer cooperation. Rachel closed the hologram and looked directly at Pip. You asked about the future, Pip. Here's what I think will happen. Humans will continue building, yes. Better ships, better tools, better weapons. But we'll also continue building something more important. What's that? Pip asked. Relationships, Daniel answered. Friendships, communities. We'll build networks of species who work together, who help each other, who share both burdens and achievements. Is that what humans want most? Kessa asked thoughtfully. I think so, Daniel said. Humans spent so long being prey, being weak, being vulnerable. We built tools to survive. But survival isn't enough. We want to thrive, and we've learned that thriving is better when you're not alone. Pip walked back to the viewport and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, new species existed who hadn't met humans yet, new friends humans hadn't made, new problems humans hadn't solved. Daniel, Pip said quietly, can you teach me to build things? Really build them like humans do? Daniel came to stand beside him. Of course. But you need to understand something important. Building tools is just the beginning. The real skill is knowing what to build and why. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a simple tool, a screwdriver. He placed it carefully in Pip's small hands. This is one of the most basic human tools. It joins things together or takes them apart. Simple, right? Pip gripped the handle carefully, feeling the weight of it. It's heavier than I thought. Tools have weight, Daniel said. Physical weight and responsibility. Every tool can build or destroy. The person holding it makes that choice. I want to build, Pip declared. I want to make things that help people. Then you're already thinking like a human, Rachel said warmly. Teacher Lorne approached them, their multiple eyes reflecting the starlight. This is why humans are valuable to the galactic community. Not just because of what you build, but because you teach others to build. Not just technology, but relationships and understanding. Every species contributes something unique to the galaxy, Daniel said. The Veliks contribute their knowledge and records. The Dravens contribute their security and protection. The Talorans contribute their trading networks and cultural exchanges. What do humans contribute? Pip asked. Hope, Rook said unexpectedly. Everyone turned to look at the Draven. He seemed almost embarrassed by the attention. Humans contribute hope that things can always get better. That problems can be solved. That former enemies can become friends. That's it exactly, Daniel agreed. Humans spent millions of years overcoming impossible odds. We were prey that became pioneers. We were weak that became strong. We were divided that became united. If humans can change that much, anyone can. Pip looked down at the screwdriver in his hands. It was just a simple tool, but it represented something much bigger. It represented the human philosophy that nothing was impossible if you were willing to learn, to try, and to keep improving. Will you really teach me? Pip asked Daniel. Everything you know about building? I'll teach you everything I can, Daniel promised. But remember, the best part of building is that you never stop learning. I'm still learning new things every day. Me too, Rachel added. As am I, Teacher Lorne said. Everyone is, Rook finished. Kessa put her hand on Pip's shoulder. I think we've learned more in these past few days than we expected when we arrived at Haven's Rest. That's how it works, Daniel said with a smile. You ask one question and it leads to 100 more. Pip asked where human claws were, and we've spent days exploring what that really means. So what's the real answer? Pip asked. Where are your claws? Daniel gestured to the station around them, to the ships visible in the distance, to the stars beyond. Everywhere and nowhere. We built physical tools, yes. Weapons and defenses and machines. But more importantly, we built the mindset that created them. We built the culture of problem-solving, cooperation, and continuous improvement. He pointed at the screwdriver in Pip's hands. That's a claw. But so is every idea, every friendship, every solution to a problem. Humans learned that the sharpest tools aren't always made of metal. They're made of thought, Pip said slowly, understanding dawning. And heart, Kessa added softly. And determination, Rook contributed. And wisdom, Teacher Lorne finished. Rachel brought her hologram back up one last time, showing Earth hanging in space. Humans came from that world with nothing but our minds and our will to survive. We built everything else, and we're still building. Daniel knelt down one last time beside Pip. You asked if you could learn to build like humans. The answer is yes, because building like humans doesn't mean being human. It means choosing to see challenges as opportunities. It means choosing cooperation over conflict. It means choosing to keep learning, keep growing, keep improving. He gestured to the screwdriver. That tool is yours now. Use it to build something good. And when you do, teach someone else how you did it. That's the human way. We build sharp claws, then we teach others how to build them too. Pip held the screwdriver carefully as if it were precious. In a way it was. It was his first step toward becoming a builder, a problem solver, a bridge between species and ideas. The group stood together in the observation deck, looking out at the vast galaxy spread before them. Humans had built sharper claws than any species thought possible. But more importantly, they'd built them so they could reach out to the stars and shake hands with friends they hadn't met yet. And in teaching a young Talaran child named Pip, they'd taken another step toward the future they envisioned. A future where every species contributed their unique strengths, where cooperation replaced conquest, where the sharpest tools were used to build rather than destroy. Pip looked down at the screwdriver in his hands, then up at the stars and smiled. He had a lot to build.